All right. Well, welcome. We'd like to extend a welcome to Sarah Graham, Dr. Sarah Graham, who's an assistant professor here at LCSC. And today she's going to be leading the Skills Builder workshop that we have planned, revolving around Black History Experience. And this is one session of many things that are happening throughout the month. And so, Sarah, I'd like to welcome you and have you take some time to maybe share a little bit about other things that are happening, but also what today's topic is going to be about.
Sure, thank you, Tate. Well, here at LCSC, we started a couple years ago doing some events for Black History Month. You'll notice this year we changed that to Black History Experience because we were hoping it'll be a springboard for people to keep learning throughout the year and not just limit it to 1 month of learning. So we have a lot of different things happening throughout the month. So you can, there's a calendar, I think it's posted on the humanities page on Facebook. So you can check on there for some of the other events that are happening, including tomorrow night, a production from New York. They're doing a live production for us online about the Harlem Renaissance, which will be really exciting. So we're looking forward to that tomorrow night. But today we're going to talk a little bit about kind of where does this come from? Where do we start with the Black History Experience in America by looking at a journey that was taken by a former colleague of mine. So we'll do that today and how that applies to leadership, really. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, this Skills Builder workshop series here is focused on developing those leadership skills, and we also take some time to spotlight leaders as well. So for those of you that haven't tuned in yet, we will have a list of leaders here on our CSL website that you can check out that happen monthly. And basically you learn about their journeys, things that they've learned or observed or had exposure to. So it complements, the leadership spotlight complements the skills builder stuff that we're doing quite well. So we thank you for taking the time today and being our first skills builder workshop presenter.
Happy to. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, I understand we've got a slide here and a few things that you'll be covering before we introduce the TED Talk related to this week's subject.
Yes, so we're going to go through this TED Talk, Walking with My Ancestors, a journey from slave dungeons in Ghana, with Dr. Oforiwa Adjuonum from Illinois State University. So we can go ahead and forward to the next slide there. So Dr. Adjuonum was, like I said, a colleague of mine when I taught at Illinois State University. And I got to know her because during that time was when I adopted my children who are from Ghana. And so she spoke their same tribal language, and she has, her son was the same age as my kids. And so we formed a friendship there. She was a favorite of students because she teaches the African Drumming and Dance Ensemble, which students loved to take. She's very energetic professor, so really enjoyed getting to work with her. This is a recent journey that she began with research just a couple of years ago that we're going to see in this TED Talk. But that's Oforiwa. We'll go to the next one. There we go. So this picture is a picture that I took when I was at Cape Coast. And it looks, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's this beautiful tropical beach, not built up. It's just gorgeous. This is the setting where we see the castle where she's doing her research that she talks about, where she's doing her imprisonment study. And I think it's just ironic that outside, just right outside of that, this is the view. So you can kind of keep that in mind. You don't necessarily see that when you're in the castle. Ghana was known as the Gold Coast until they became independent from Britain in 1957. So they're a fairly young country. But when we talk about the slave trade, when we talk about the Gold Coast, that is present day Ghana. So something to also kind of keep in mind. And we can go on to the next one. So I want us to think about these things. When we think about Black history in America, where did it begin? Who is Black in America? And then what does it mean to be Black in America? And to do that, we start by going back and looking at the beginning of that journey which begins where Oferiwa takes us in this video. So kind of thinking about these things, I think the next slide is the video. So we'll get started in watching that.
And we'll want to make sure, let you know that this is on TED Talk, and you can search that, and they'll show you here on the screen at the top there where to find this clip. If for some reason the video and audio isn't great, it's about a 14-minute clip that we're going to be doing here, and so afterwards we'll come back and have that discussion after the video is played. But if you notice some technical difficulties, just know that you can pull up another screen and launch the same thing straight from TED Talk. Thanks.
They've been there from the beginning. They can intervene in our lives. So, I visited the spirits of the dead that reside in former slave dungeons at Cape Coast Castle in Ghana to learn from them. Cape Coast Castle is huge, heavy. This is where captured and shackled proud Africans were imprisoned for months until a ship came to transport those who survived across the Atlantic to plantations in America. I wanted to understand more deeply the magnitude of the crime that was committed by turning human beings into a commodity. Every Monday and Thursday in 2017, for 4 hours each time, over a period of 5 months, I sat in the dungeons. Each night before a visit, I did not eat, brush my teeth, bathe, or empty my bowels. I tossed and turned all night and could not sleep. In the morning, I traveled to Cape Coast Castle and changed into clothes that I had not washed in 5 months. I smelled like shit. Then I got shackled. Neck, legs, and wrists. I dragged myself into dark, damp holes underground. Sometimes I took fruit and water for our ancestors. I sat, buried, scared, waiting 4 hours alone. I conversed with the spirits, asked questions. Who? What? When? Why? How? I read them storybooks. I took in deep breaths to soak up the smell, pressed my back into the walls to connect. I wept. I sang. Bwe, 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 bwe. Waka, 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 waka. Enti bibi mapa na tuapa nsam seye. Ah, bibi mine. And I'm too many and so be out. Yem pioneer. Isu afa yankra. Isu afa yankra bibi mine. Ye we ye nie. Sie. Way! Way! I missed my children. Numbed feet, frozen buttocks, tingly toes, stiff neck, wrists, hazy eyes, growling stomach, full bladder, dead vagina. Shackles ate my skin. They suffered much, much longer. I massaged the cool, bumpy, damp floors, caressed the algae covered walls. They were human beings and deserved to be loved. I fed them, ate with them. I danced, rocked, hugged, consoled them. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal you. I left the dungeons after each visit, disconnected, dazed and tongue-tied. My children asked, Mama, what is wrong with you, Mama? Talk to us. Touch us, Mama. My body shut down after the first 2 weeks. Insomnia, gum disease, bronchitis, high blood pressure, constipation, urinary tract infection, menstrual disorder. I was losing my mind. Even the blacksmith did not make my shackles because the shackles haunt him. My family said I needed supervision and counseling. Towards the midpoint of my visits, my head was smashed into a windshield in a car accident. I wanted to quit. Quit. But they were there continuously for months, in shackles day and night. They did not have the choice to leave like I did. How did they survive the long walks through tunnels and woods? How did they survive the slave holes underground, the red hot branding iron? What had they become when they were dragged through the doors of no return into the holds of ships to a world of emptiness? Imagine tight packing, weeks on the roaring sea, no fresh air, no light, darkness, menstrual blood flows, vomit, shit, rampant diseases, rape, dehydration, starvation, diarrhea, the sick, the dead, thrown into sea, fed to sharks, decomposed dead bodies. No funerary rites, no goodbyes. Trauma, gaps, I benefit from their suffering, sacrifices, and death. We all benefit. So, no, no, I couldn't quit. I kept dragging the shackles to the last day of my scheduled visit. For nobody knows the trouble they've seen. Nobody knows their sorrows. Nobody knows their trauma. How did some survive? What had they become when they were dumped onto plantations in the Americas? What scars did they have on their bodies, minds, souls, DNAs? Lately, I've been wondering, who are the descendants of those enslaved Africans? Where are they? Are they here? What scars did they inherit? Are they also shackled? Our own people? I think about my life in America, Black, female, professor with a PhD. The stories by other faculty and staff of color, undervalued, unfair assessments, invisible, pigeonholed, alone, chased out. I think about my daughter, my son, and the daily aggressions they face. Is the dungeon in me? Or am I in the dungeon? Because sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, a long way from home. Do the shackles come off? How are we going to deal with the ghosts of slavery that continue to shackle all of us? When are we going to start treating all humans equally with dignity, kindness, mercy, and love? The dead know everything. It is up to us, all of us, to discover the lessons they have left for us. Tama tama tamale. Yeah. Tama 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 tamale. Do 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 do. Mabara zenzere.
All right. Well, as people are starting to get back from maybe another screen watching that TED Talk, I know we have some things here posed on the PowerPoint to think, reflect, apply, and consider, and question. So I'll turn that over to you, Sarah, here in just a minute. I think we'll just give folks another few seconds here to get back onto the stream. All right, I think we're ready.
Okay, so I like to use this acronym to kind of use as a guide when we think about things like the video we just watched, to think about it, to reflect on it, to apply what we learned or what we heard to situations, people, places, things that we know of, that we hold in our own selves, to consider what we've seen and heard, and then to question it, to ask questions for clarification, to learn, or just simply rhetorical questions for yourself, or things to think about. So keeping in mind kind of these ideas of thinking, reflecting, applying it to maybe our experiences, considering and questioning. What are some of your thoughts from watching this video? Maybe what you learned, how it maybe affected you? What did you think?
So I know we've got some folks down here in the sub-CSL. And I've got Emily Garman, I believe, is down there, and she's going to help us moderate a little bit.
Okay.
The microphone is kind of hard to hear, I think, but Emily, if you could repeat the question that the audience might have, that would be great.
You guys have questions? Are we doing questions or are we doing
Or comments?
Yeah, what you thought about it. I thought getting perspective is super awesome. So seeing the video and actually getting to understand what the visuals and things like that, what she went through and is trying to process is good to get perspective on that.
Okay.
Emily,
can you repeat that for us a little bit?
Yeah, she just said getting perspective and seeing the videos with her pictures, and it was just nice to get another perspective.
Yeah. It is a very different perspective than when we think about it. We think about something we saw in history books, right? We don't really have a good visual image of that. So yeah, definitely. I know it's kind of heavy content. So sometimes it takes a while to really think about what's in there, but I think it's important so when we consider with Black history, where we started, this is where we started. So when we think about then who is Black in America, that's a big question, because it's those who are descendants of enslaved Africans, right, who came over, but it's also those like Dr. Adwonem, who is Ghanaian and is an immigrant. And so, but her experience as a Black American is very different from those who, descended from her same ancestors. So it's a kind of a big question when we think about that. And I think that's important to think about, especially as leaders, because we tend to lump all, Black people or African Americans into one category. And really there's a very, very, broad experience of what that means, particularly in America, for people. So I think that's something to really consider. And as a leader, it's important to have this kind of a perspective. The president of the college where I did my undergraduate wrote a book called Leading People from the Middle. And he was outstanding leader, just amazing leader. But I think what's important about that is that it takes a sense of empathy to be a good leader, and understanding where people come from and gaining perspectives that are different, sometimes wildly different from our own. And so this is an example, and I think our Black history experiences throughout the month give you an example of a way to connect with something that maybe we're not as familiar with here, because we don't have a large Black population. But we still can learn about, educate, and broaden our perspective about it so that we can begin to understand and relate to people from different kinds of backgrounds. So, and the more backgrounds you look at, the broader that experience becomes. So I think studying this, looking at things like this is really important for leaders in terms of developing empathy and perspective. So, like I said, it's a heavy subject matter. The video is pretty heavy, but really fascinating in the way that she took the journey. So I'll leave you with that, unless anybody has any closing comments as we're wrapping up.
Well, I think we might have a few people, it looks like they're attending here through the YouTube stream. They might have some questions to add in here.
Yep.
But I, as you're talking here and thinking and reflecting, we're going through this pandemic and we're thinking, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. And, or maybe sometimes we look at the small things and think, I'm having a really hard day. I think this is obviously one of those things that you can reflect on and say, you know what? I probably shouldn't be complaining about much of anything compared to other folks in history that have had obviously a lot harder day and struggled a lot more with what was going on in society. So that's kind of what I was just thinking about here. When you think the sky is falling on yourself, sometimes you just need to open your eyes and look around, and you'll realize, you know what, there are others out there that are going through a lot more.
Yeah, it does. Definitely. Yeah.
All right.
So, well, thank you all for attending today, and I hope I get to see you at some of our events throughout the month.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, Dr. Graham, as well as the folks down in the sub-CSL. We look forward to continued skills builders in the future here, and we just appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and share on this topic. I think we can all benefit and gain from these topics that we're presenting to our students and to our campus community and beyond. So thank you very much, and we look forward to catching you on the next Skills Builder next month. Thanks again.
So much.